Nerds, welcome to Flying Casual and all Star Wars podcast. I am your host, Michael Canterbury. I have Holly and Luke with me here to talk about that very thing, Star Wars. A hot topic in the nerdum, fandom, nerd culture, whatever you want to call it. We got some new Star Wars content. Satisfying all of us right now with the Bad Batch, but we also have comic books, friends. Do not forget your comic books. We almost forgot comic books there for a while. We almost forgot about the new Star Wars Darth Vader mainline. Who am I kidding? The Darth Vader 2020 line, because it went away for like 2 months. So we were on a little bit of a Darth Vader hiatus, but we finally got issue 11, the long-awaited issue. We were teased with a really sweet cover art on the prior issue. So will it meet our expectations? We'll find out. But we are going to talk about that number 11 issue of Darth Vader 2020. We're also then going to talk about episode 2 of The Bad Batch, Cut and Run. None of us knew that they quite literally meant the character cut in the title, right?
I don't know. That was clever.
That was very clever.
It took me watching it twice to realize that.
Yeah. No, I same here. Didn't even cross my mind. Just thought desertion. That makes sense. But we're actually talking about cut. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. But look, guys, let's talk about this comic book. Okay. Issue 10. The end of issue 10 teases a freaking epic showdown between Darth Vader and, I don't know, Luke, Holly, 15, dark side followers. I mean, there's like 20 Sith behind him.
Wait, yeah, and they all have lightsabers.
All have laser swords.
Wait a second.
So
Where'd you get those?
Where'd you get those things? You're gonna poke your eye out with that. I was really expecting an epic issue, and can I start out, up front saying, not my favorite issue.
So you're saying
disappointed.
Didn't meet your expectations.
Did not meet expectations. I felt like that was a tease, and I felt like we were kind of lied to here. But Luke, I don't know. Maybe I'm alone in this, but I mean, I had high expectations, and I feel like this just didn't meet them. How about you, man?
Yeah, I think that was kind of the one of the first things I said to you when we discussed the comic book finally coming out, which is part of the story as well. Yeah. They're surprising to actually have it in my hands now, because there was a time about a month ago, I think, I called Michael. I said, Michael, I'm in the car. I'm going to stop by the comic book shop. I think that next Darth Vader is out, man.
Yep.
Michael's like, I don't know, dude.
Like, you're getting out of the car and I have to break it to you.
Online that it's coming out yet. And yeah, sure enough, you're right. Yeah, they took like a couple months to put this next one out. It's finally here.
Yeah.
Caused a bit of a stir. But yeah, I think a little underwhelmed by what we felt it was building towards in the previous issues overall.
Yeah. And I mean, the internet completely spoiled a part of it, because you had all of Star Wars Twitter just spoiling the hell out of one of these panels. And we'll just cut to it. Looks like it's Luke's hand in a container, and the internet ran with that and made a bunch of memes, which were funny. But I'm like, stop spoiling shit for comic book readers. Like, just stop it. 95% of those folks aren't even reading the actual story. But so that was a little bit of a letdown. But Holly, how about you? Difficult to follow this one, no?
For various reasons.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure. Here was my understanding of what happened was Darth Vader rode down to Exegol on a giant octopus that was then blown up by Palpatine.
Yep.
And then he followed Palpatine for some unknown reason to
confront him.
Exegol.
Yeah.
But it was all very calm. I mean, we were walking here.
No lightning. Did you see any lightning?
I didn't.
No storms.
I kind of heard that creepy music while I was reading the comic, though.
Yeah.
But then we get in there and we see creepy clones, a hand.
Could be, we were talking about before, could be Luke's, could be Anakin's. Luke mentioned maybe Palpatine sawed off the forearm of Anakin and just holds his hand in some formaldehyde.
He went to Geonosis, picked up the arm, or maybe Dooku grabbed it, presented it to Palpatine as a present. Yep. He fed the forearm to Mas Amedda.
Seriously.
Kept the hand.
Mas looks like they would eat an arm, right? I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah.
Looks like
I don't know. Listen, 2 episodes ago, like comic issues ago,
you're feeling it.
We saw Palpatine leave Darth Vader with none of his robot hands.
Yes.
And then he brings him into Exegol and makes a point of showing him what could have been his actual physical hand.
Yeah.
It's like a double slap in the face with a real hand.
I would have actually have rather in that little jar saw Vader's robotic hand. As just like a slam.
Look what I have.
Look what I took for, look
Sucker.
what I took. Yeah, I thought that would have been actually pretty funny.
Put a mouse droid on your arm and use it as a hand? Look what I actually have.
How intimidating would he be if he had a literal mouse droid on his hand that just it's like, what is that supposed to do? Squeak me to death?
Yes.
Great pull, Holly. I mean, not quite a mouse droid, but someone needs to make some fan art of that. You know, a softer side to Vader.
There are kids' books that are like good guy Vader, right?
Great point.
I don't know about like good guy Vader.
How would those rebel, troops at the end of Rogue One have responded to, being in that hallway with him, and they just like, wait, is that a mouse droid on your arm?
Yeah. But
get out of here.
In actuality, they're just pitching him softballs, and when he's swinging his lightsaber, he's just...
God, that'd be great.
It's like...
I love a nice softball.
It's like batting practice with Dad.
Absolutely.
But on a ship in space.
See, now you are writing the children's book with Vader. So
we're just making it a little more gentle.
He takes Luke out. Luke's tossing him softballs. He's hitting him with his laser sword. He accidentally cuts Luke's hand off.
Accidents happen.
It was a retelling of the story there,
Look,
right?
Yeah. What we know from what Sue said in The Bad Batch is kids always find trouble. So losing limbs is bound to happen.
That's very true. So Holly, that was a great summary. I don't think you got through it all because we got distracted.
I didn't.
But let's start from that beginning, because Vader's gone through a lot, right? He fought Ochi. He's fought a droid army. He fought the Eye of Webbish Bog and everything he was thrown at him. He fought through this epic giant squid thing, this crimson kind of threat in the region, whatever it was, a black hole squid. I don't remember what its name was.
Oh, it was like the red.
The Red Storm.
Red.
Something.
Oh crap!
This reminds me of that Chevelle song.
That's the red.
Down, the red will eat you alive. No. Luke, get the banjo out. So lay down. We'll do a bluegrass version of Chevelle. That'll be a Patreon exclusive.
I'm sure that people would love that. I was trying to find it. I found it before. I can't find it now.
Giant flying squid.
Flying squid.
We know he needed to get through that to get to Exegol. Well, if Vader has one thing going for him, it's epic entrances. I think of his entrance in Rebels. It was amazing in season 2.
He does always ride in on something.
At the end, he's riding the TIE fighter. You're like, who's piloting that thing? The Forces. So, wouldn't you know, here comes Vader on this giant squid thing. And I'll be honest, I've never seen this in comic books, but the scale of the squid is so huge. You see Vader on its head, but it's just like a speck. I mean, it could be a mole on this squid, but it's so giant and Vader's so small. They actually had to circle Vader, and then his talking bubble comes out of the circle. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? He is riding this thing down to Exegol to confront the Emperor. That's what's happening. And the Emperor's got plans of his own, and out of left field, Holly, you said he sends what's the guy from the Nickelodeon show?
Oh, it's Larry the Lobster.
Larry the Lobster. A couple juiced up Larry the Lobsters come out of the ground and attack this squid thing. This is the Emperor, using them to attack Vader's squid.
Also, stop manipulating animals. Leave them alone.
Yeah, let's stop
They did
using
nothing to
them.
you.
Exactly. They're just trying to defend themselves. But Luke, I was a little thrown off by this. It kind of took me out of things. I thought I was watching Godzilla here, and seeing these giant monsters fight each other. I mean, this seemed kind of silly, right?
Yeah, I don't know where these crab lobster guys came from. They really came out of nowhere.
They could be
we know
everywhere.
the squid was in the nebula thing that
Mm-hmm.
you have to get through to get to Exegol.
Yeah.
But yeah, really not expecting the giant lobsters, but they were dispatched pretty quickly.
Pretty quickly.
Anyways, they met their demise through the squid power. We
Yeah.
always know squid beats lobster in squid,
That's right.
lobster, jellyfish.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Battles. It's jellyfish shocks squid strangles lobster.
Yep.
Yada yada.
Who's the jellyfish in Star Wars though?
Jar Jar Binks.
He destroys everyone. Misa, happy to see you, squid. Maybe he does.
Yeah, I
have a
didn't
secret
fully
power.
think through that game, but I'll work out all the details
liked
and get
it.
back to you on that.
We got to figure out who. I
But-
mean, I guess Palpatine's technically the
I don't
right
like. I
with
don't
the
like that.
with the Force lightning kind of. That's kind of like what a
Yeah, but then it could be anybody.
Well-
it doesn't matter if it's a squid or if it's a
Well,
rancor.
we're gonna work this out, guys. In the next episode, we will have our game of rock paper scissors Star Wars edition with creatures. We'll have it all ironed out. I'm pretty certain. But you're right, Luke. Like the thing literally attacks the crabs and just literally squeezes them and snaps them in half, which is cool. And so Vader thinks he's like, I gotcha, but then Palpatine just kind of blows him off and says, what? And he wraps the squid around itself and cuts itself in half. And we have a Holdo maneuver looking moment where the squid snaps in half. So this thing is harnessing energy. It looks nuclear, but the scene of it destroying itself, it looks like the Holdo maneuver.
And isn't Vader yelling at the squid fight this?
He's yelling at Palpatine.
I didn't read the
Oh,
same
yeah,
comic.
maybe not. No, you're right. No,
I thought
he's
he was
at him.
yelling at the squid, being
Yeah.
like,
Don't be
suck
a
it up.
baby. Yeah, but I mean, when you're wrapped around your own power and
bro, it's
weird.
the Force. I don't see you combating it.
So that whole scene was weird. So Vader finally lands on Exegol and he sees Palpatine. Palpatine's walking into their little temple or whatever that is there, and it's just. This is where we start seeing the familiar Exegol. We see the statues. We see the Snoke creations. And then we have the jar that we mentioned earlier with what we assume is Luke's hand. Just, some familiar stuff there. And then just out of the chambers, Vader gets attacked by some creations. I don't even know what these are. Super soldiers. I have no idea. Some of Palpatine's creations attack Vader. He seems to destroy them with ease, for the most part, I should say. And then, we're in a situation where Vader is surrounded by these, I don't know, Sith acolytes, whatever they are, whoever the folks that were sitting in the stands of the Rise of Skywalker, those folks.
Yeah.
But you kind of see them up close and personal, and they have daggers, which I thought was interesting. I was expecting laser swords. Apparently, they're not like true Sith or something.
But then who are the dudes on the cover with
know.
the
So-
laser
Holly,
swords?
comic covers are misleading.
That's the thing. Now I'm newer to the comic game, and I've discovered
Yep.
over the time that I'm in it now, though, that the cover means next to
Yep,
nothing.
lots of teasing. Lots of teasing.
It's just to get you
The
to buy
cover
it.
is like an alternate reality
It really
compared
is.
to the contents of the comic.
It absolutely is. There's sometimes just speckles of truth in whatever it is you're seeing. It's really to entice you to buy the next issue. It's exactly what it is. And maybe we'll see something. Sometimes it does happen several issues later. You get some elements of whatever it is they were teasing. So we may get it. But it seems like, maybe we were kind of thrown off here to thinking he's going to fight like 20 Sith here. Well, these guys with these daggers, I mean, Vader just kind of makes short work of them. You're like, oh, I mean, this could be a fight. He literally just uses the Force to just take their sabers, their little daggers out of their hands and turn them against him, and he has they just all get stabbed.
But like they don't even. It's not even like each individual one is stabbed. He like sends the dagger through one guy into the other, across the way into somebody else.
It's like Guardians of the Galaxy up in here.
It's like overkill.
It can be, yeah.
And I would pause a moment on some of the dialogue that's going throughout these scenes that you've described, Michael. Palpatine's using these different adversaries to go at Vader. None of them are a match for him, and he, of course, overcomes them.
Yeah.
But throughout, he's mocking him again, saying, these things could replace you. These things might be the next Sith Lord in a way. Yeah. Just continuing the mocking that we've seen.
Great point.
From Palpatine towards Vader through a lot of this line. It's just I think we've used this terminology before about the sort of the Stockholm syndrome type relationship that Vader has at this point with Palpatine.
I feel like this issue was the episode of that Stockholm syndrome, like especially the way it ends. And you're so right, Luke. Like every confrontation he has here, he's just like, "Hey, Vader's just like, these can't be your Sith followers. There's only 2 Sith," and Palpatine's like, "Yeah, it's true. But any of these guys could replace you. You're just a bunch of pieces, like put together. So you could fall at any moment." It seems like he's telling him one wrong move, but Vader finds a way, and he destroys all these guys, and he starts to sense something though. Vader can sense he's getting close to whatever it is that Palpatine's hiding, and there is a bunch of dialogue here. But we also have Ochi here. Ochi is walking alongside Vader this entire time. The Ochi that was attempting to kill him earlier in this line and now is like looking out for Vader's best. Hey, we can go reason with Palpatine. Let's not go into this room. Let's not do that. I can talk to him. It's cool. Like he's the voice of reason here, and he's like looking out for him. I'm like, what the hell is happening with Ochi? Ochi was made out to be some badass, and now he's just cowering in the face of danger.
Ochi hasn't really been a badass throughout this comic line, though. To me, he's more of like a Hondo-esque character now, where he like says some funny things, he does some mischief, and then he backpedals.
Yeah, he's very comedic.
I feel like that's kind of what he's doing, or he was intentionally set up to do this to Vader by Palpatine to kind of mess with Vader's mind, which is something that could be going on, because you have Palpatine like encouraging Vader to try to find him here on Exegol, and then like go through these little challenges that he's continued to set up and like fight these creations, I guess is what we're calling them. And then the whole time Ochi's like, "Man, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure this is the right decision to make?" And it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like the angel devil on the other.
No, you're absolutely right. So he's trying to convince him, like, dude, there's something suffering here. Like, we don't want any part of this. Like, let's get out of here. And they continue on through this temple, and they actually come across these Star Destroyers that we see from The Rise of Skywalker that Palpatine has in some, like, underground bunker here, hidden away. And so that's one of the big secrets, apparently. And we actually see that the way in which Palpatine is powering these things is through kyber crystals. They continue on through the temple, and there's just this red beam of light coming out of this like dome area. And he could just sense its presence. And so they go into this place, and they're just covered in this red light. And you see this big pile of kyber crystals. And Vader and Ochi are kind of discussing it, and they're talking about the pain and the suffering that they're sensing from these crystals, which we all know that's how the Sith get these red crystals, is they punish and bleed them into kind of obeying them. So it's just this pain, and you see these little, are they Jawas that are like,
that's what they look like,
shaving the crystals to punish them? It was very strange. I felt like I was going to Charlie's Chocolate Factory, and
Yeah, I think they're Oompa Loompas.
Yeah, I was like, what's happening here? So it was just kind of strange.
They forgot to sing their song.
Yeah.
Oompa Doompa. Can we make that get some banjo in that too? Make a folk version? I'm sure we can.
I wonder if they would come up with their own song, one for like Darth Vader, another one for like Ochi.
Awesome. That'd be awesome.
I mean,
I do like the line in here about I think it's Vader who says Kyber is a living thing. And you were kind of talking about this, Michael. And to serve a Sith, the Kyber must suffer. Yeah, that's that bleeding that they've introduced, that bleeding concept, and the Kyber is the Sith make the Kyber feel the pain and the suffering.
Yeah.
And that's why it's red and does terrible things in their hands.
And I love like Ochi mentions too that he can it's like deafening to him. He can hear them screaming, which I thought was super cool because to me, I don't know why I just associated like a Force user would be sensing that, but he, not a Force user, he serves a Sith, can hear them screaming.
I think it just shows you how unnatural it is for this to be happening because
I love that.
In the natural order of things, the Kyber crystal calls out to the Jedi, like it chooses its Jedi, right?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't hear it because it wouldn't call out to us because we're not Force sensitive, but they're so like overburdened with the terrible thing that's happening to them that anybody can hear it because it's just so amplified because it shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, no, it's we've seen them collect Kyber crystals before. Shortly after Order 66, we see them using them. I thought it was to power the future Death Star. I can't even remember, but there's definitely a collection of Kyber crystals and laser swords at one point. So whether this is part of that same pot, I don't know, but they've definitely been harnessing crystals for a while, it appears. And I love that. Yeah, it's also unnatural to do this.
Maybe I'm just reading into it too much, but the way that like Darth Vader explains to serve the Sith, the crystal must suffer after saying that the crystals are living things, it's almost, this is just the way that I interpreted that, it's almost to me like the way, not that they care to like justify things because I don't feel like they have to, but like they think that it's right for them to do this because the crystals are serving the Sith. Like they're doing this, they're living things, they're going through this specifically to serve the Sith. It's almost like not that they're doing it to themselves, but like they're allowed, like that they would have like an active choice in this happening when really like they don't, because the Sith are torturing the Kyber crystals to get this result from them. It's not that the Kyber crystals are like suffering to serve the Sith in the way that like a living thing would suffer.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, and I think in some of the High Republic stuff, I can't remember which book, whether I think it wasn't Light of the Jedi, but the Claudia Gray one, Into the Dark, maybe the one character talks about sort of the symbiotic relationship, like you guys were mentioning, that the Jedi have with the crystals, and how important that is to their then using the crystal as a tool for justice in their, to uphold justice and when necessary using force to do so through their lightsaber. So that is just the polar opposite of that concept, bending it to your will.
Yeah.
And it even serves Palpatine's little, path that is to some unnatural. I love that you brought that up, Holly, because it just feeds that narrative of like, this is the complete opposite of what we should be doing. We should not be trying to prolong life in the way that you're doing it. We shouldn't be doing this to kyber crystals to create energy. Like it's everything about it. It's just wrong.
But it feels like very industrial because there's so many things that we ourselves are doing that kind of align with this. People are just kind of like turning a blind eye to it. Like we don't want to think about it. What if like, can you imagine if like every time you cut down a tree, it screamed like one of these kyber crystals did or something? It should.
I don't want to say that, we should experience, what was the movie where all the plant
the
life?
Lorax.
Not that one. A little darker.
Avatar.
Not a fan of Avatar. Was not Avatar. The people actually started killing themselves because of the plants' rebellions. No?
Zoo.
Not that one either. Yeah, no, there's a really horrifying trailer for it where a dude just laid in front of a lawnmower. It was terrible.
What?
I'll have to look up what it was. I don't know. It was a terrible movie, but it was
because
also,
of the plants.
Yeah, it was the way of Mother Nature fighting back. People just started like committing. Yeah. Anyway,
I mean, too bad.
That's a dark topic. We're not even talking about it, but the plants should fight back. Let's just say.
A darker topic than what we're talking about now.
The end of our planet. Yeah, pretty much. Doesn't get any darker than that.
Hey, tell that to Naboo.
Naboo's okay.
Oh.
You meant Alderaan.
I meant Alderaan. God damn it.
R.I.P. Alderaan.
Am I even a Star Wars fan?
R.I.P. Alderaan. It's a Tuesday. It's late.
I'm foreseeing something that's going to happen in the future, guys. I got the scoop.
Well, I thought it was just the Greek Express, that we just literally ate 5 seconds before going on air. I know all the blood is rushing to my stomach right now, so I don't even know if I'm actually speaking.
It's also past my bedtime.
Wow. Well, so it's really interesting because Palpatine's talking here as well. And we talked about, making these kyber crystals suffer. And he says it's the pain. The pain is what's going to give them their true power. And I've harnessed that. And so it's essentially he's comparing like what he's doing to these kyber crystals. I'm making them suffer. This pain is causing them to be powerful. And that's how you're harnessing power. And it's exactly it's the message that Palpatine's trying to get across to Vader. There's actually a really traumatic couple of scenes where Ochi, all of this power from these kyber crystals blows his helmet off, and we see that disgusting face of his. It actually looks like his eyeballs are melting in one of them.
Oh, I misread that. I thought that was one of those little Jawa creatures who was like poking the crystal.
No, it was Ochi. And so Palpatine says, "I tore you to pieces before, old friend, but this is something different, isn't it? Unlimited power, beyond anything you have ever experienced, all in my hands." And there's a very menacing scene of just kind of the shadow almost of Palpatine covered in red. It's very powerful. Just the imagery here. He says, "You feel it burning your flesh and mind, ready to incinerate you in an instant, and you know you cannot fight it. So how can you claim it? Pain, fear, anger, power. It's the path you have chosen time and time again, but somehow need to choose again, time and time again. If you walk with me, you will never escape this terrible pain.
He's really selling us on this.
But only in this way can you share my power." So after that little speech and witnessing what's going on here with these kyber crystals, looks like Vader has somewhat of a flashback, but it's one of those manipulated ones where he and Luke are in like the opposite places. And so we're here on Bespin, and Vader is in Luke's place, kind of hanging for dear life, one hand gone. And Luke says to him, "Search your feelings," and puts out his hand. "You can destroy the Emperor. He has foreseen this. It is your destiny. Lord Vader, have you chosen?" So I don't know, Luke, how did you take this scene? I mean, is this Vader accepting his fate, but this isn't going to go the way he thinks? Does he have to succumb to? Does he realize he has to succumb to Palpatine's kind of direction here in order to bring him down? Is this him saying, "I've decided and I will bring him down"? I didn't really know how to take this.
Yeah, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. These pains of this comic line, that these scenes we know so well from Empire, mostly, and sort of play with the characters' positions, put people there who weren't there before, or flip the roles around, and now Luke is saying the lines of Vader, and Vader's in the position of Luke. Throughout the line, these sort of images have given us the most to kind of chew on and theorize about because they are really interesting in takes on things and what are these trying to tell us. I think it's really powerful to me that Palpatine says you'll never escape the suffering. I think when we think of Anakin's fall, he was down with the power he could attain because he thought he could protect himself from suffering with the power. But here Palpatine's like telling him he got it all wrong, basically, in that no, the suffering will always be there. But only through the suffering can you achieve the power, and you can't ever like divorce those two things from each other. And I think that's ultimately why Anakin never never buys in enough where he's impenetrable by the light. He is able to turn back because he's like, man, that's like I don't like that deal. In the end, I'm just not going to go for that deal. And so for me, this line is also like sowing the seeds that they'll reap in Return of the Jedi when he does turn with the help of Luke, but only with the help of Luke. Like throughout this issue and sort of the preceding issues, he seems like he's had enough. He's fed up with Palpatine. I'm going to try to actually overthrow him. I'm done. But in the end, he sees his powers too much for him to deal with alone. But these images, reminding him of Luke again and what Luke's position is, and what Luke might be able to do, I think it sows the seed that together they might be able to overcome Palpatine. But Vader's in the position where he can't do it on his own, so now he's left with just sort of biding his time for now.
Yeah, and maybe he's looking back on that scene with his son saying, you know what? It was actually my son who won that confrontation there on Bespin, that he was able to reject that darkness. He was able to reject taking my hand and over. Maybe he is what I need. He is what the galaxy needs to rid us of this evil. He's the one that will be able to turn away and defeat it all. Hopefully that's a very powerful message. Holly, the Emperor is gaslighting the hell out of Vader, it seems like, right? Like, hey, you could save Padme. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Well, we can find it together. Just join me. Oh, well, you're also going to be suffering this entire time, and you're probably never, ever going to harness the power that I have. I mean, that son of a bitch did it. He seems like he's got Vader now where he wants him.
I don't know. I honestly, at this point, like, I literally have no idea. Because I felt like there were so many moments that Vader, like, went through that Palpatine put him through that would have broken him. And to me, this just doesn't really, I guess what Luke was saying seems to be more likely to me, that he's not actually like going with Palpatine in the sense that he's like, okay, we're back in bed together. Like this, like, we're just going to work together. I don't know. I just like,
I mean, he was coming to Exegol to confront Palpatine.
Yeah,
right?
To me, these interactions and this issue, like, they just don't really make sense to me.
That's fair.
I'm not really buying them, but I just
fair.
feel like they're kind of weak. But that's just me. Maybe that's a harsh critique of the comic. But
what do you think could be better? Like, what do you think what were you expecting? I guess I should say.
I don't know. See, that's the thing. It's like, here's what happens when you go back in time and you try to like fill in these gaps in time that we already know how this storyline pans out. And so we're getting these filler stories, but then they start giving you details that seem more dramatic than they probably actually were. Like, at no point in the story we know that Vader doesn't go back and like beat Palpatine's ass on Exegol. Like, that just doesn't happen. And so I feel like maybe our expectations were just too high with what was going to happen in this comic, and so maybe it's not weak. This is just what happened. But I don't know. I just feel like it was building up to something and making you think about something that actually didn't happen in this storyline, because we know at this point in time, like, Vader and Palpatine get back together.
But I mean, we could also very well just be halfway through this line. I have no idea how long this is supposed to go. This is only issue 11. Last one went 26.
I also don't know, like, where in the storyline this line's supposed to end.
Probably up to 6. I would imagine.
Yeah, I think close to Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Michael, because I think the other prior to Vader series went around 25 issues each. So this is kind of the halfway mark. And now I'm left with the same bewilderment as you, is kind of, where is this going? Because this almost feels like it could be the conclusion right before Return of the Jedi. Yep. So it's like, well, then what is sort of the back half of this this line going to be then?
Yeah. What's the last page, Holly? What it shows? What does he say there?
He just says yes and calls Palpatine his master. See, I just can't tell when he's being facetious or if he is being genuine. I
think it's genuine.
know.
Can I see that for a second?
Yeah.
He's surrounded by Masamita. Ochi's there. He's just kind of following Palpatine now. I forget what her name is. Totally forget.
Sly.
Yeah. So he seems like he's obeying at this point, but I think Luke brought up a great point that I think we were kind of expecting Vader to be, and we may still get it, but to be kind of plotting against Palpatine. It just doesn't seem like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like that's the case. I think he just hates him for what he's done to him and put him through, and he's just seeking to destroy him. And I think quite literally this issue is showing us that's impossible. Palpatine is just too powerful. You've put yourself in this situation, and he's now harnessed this power without you even knowing it. And there's in no way, shape, or form can you yourself do this and just destroy him. It's not out of saving the galaxy. He's not here saying, I want to save the galaxy. I don't think that's his point. It's just that he is pissed off that Palpatine's put him in this situation, and he wants to destroy him for that. And now he's realizing it's just not possible. And so I'm going to have to ride this out and see, is Luke Skywalker showing up just kind of, that opportune moment. I mean, like Luke said, he's going to need a son. It was really the power of Luke Skywalker and the love for his father that really caused him to make the move. But I don't know. That could be the only thing that we're learning here. But God, I mean, this, like Luke said, this feels like it could very well then walk right into episode 6. And Vader's just, because when I look at Vader in episode 6, when we're on Endor, on the forest moon of Endor, and he just seems kind of defeated. Kind of like he's walking right here, just kind of like, it's too late for me now. But
we know that
the Emperor's got plans for you.
We know that he starts to feel that way at some point.
Yeah, but is it just? But then that's our ultimate question here. Let's say we get 15 more issues or something, or 10 more issues, or the 14 more issues, whatever it is, even 10 more issues. It's like,
well, here, let me.
Are we gonna see more of that? Are we gonna see him actually starting to feel differently?
Holly's frustration with we know where this is going, and they're just trying to fill in these gaps, and to a certain extent, it's somewhat below our expectations every time because of that. Is point A, B, and C about why they created the High Republic, because all these books and these comics that are tucked in these little niches in between some of the movies or the shows, there's a lot of cool things about that because you can see the connections, or it's kind of cool to just see that more of that timeline filled in. But at the same time, it is restricting for the story and the characters. So I think it was like they were so excited, and the authors that got to be a part of it were so excited to go take the High Republic, which was this more wide open space without all this crowding going on, and they could tell a more expansive story, and they weren't boxed in by all that.
Yeah, I imagine it's probably actually pretty stressful as a writer to be like, you have to write something that happened in between point A and point B, but you have all these little details that you have to be extremely mindful of, because we know, we do it when we talk about these comics, people are going to pick these apart, and they're going to find all the holes, and they're going to point them out.
Yeah.
So I imagine it's very stressful. But so when we were talking about where is this comic line going? Well, we had this big confrontation between Vader and Palpatine on Exegol just now, but then it says for issue number 12, all of a sudden Vader's going after Han Solo.
Well, this is the big crossover that's coming up. There's 4 lines that are going right now. It's the main line, Vader, the Bounty Hunters, which was new last year, and then the newest version of Afra, Dr. Afra. So there's this big crossover coming that's a Bounty Hunters crossover into the other 3 lines. So that's what's that all about. So it's like, there'll probably be like 1 or 2 of these crossovers that involve the Vader line, and then they'll get back to whatever the Vader line, wherever the Vader line is going. So I think like it's really hard to tell because again, we don't even have like the next cover or the next thing to give us a hint because it's really kind of a side crossover thing.
I feel like we really need to get back to the beginning of this story because it was all about Vader finding out more about Luke Skywalker and why he is the way he is. And I want to get back to that story because we went on the Padme detour, now the Exegol detour. I really thought this story was going to be Vader seeking answers about his son. And to me, it felt like it could then very easily translate into, episode 6 pretty nicely. But we've taken a couple detours here that just Holly even said, I hate to like kind of say that, this is what's happening, but she was like, kind of feels like they just really don't know where they're going with this story. And it kind of feels like that. I'm sure they have an idea, but man, we've gone in some different directions here, way different than where I thought we were going from the beginning.
I think that something else that kind of takes you out of it a little bit and makes it complicated is they're very sporadic about when they're releasing these comics. Yeah. And so, they get them on like a monthly release schedule and then all of a sudden they fall off. I think it's been a couple times now that they've like fallen off and it's been like 2 months or 3 months until they come out with the next one. And so then you're kind of playing catch up and like having to remember what was happening because there's so much other content coming out. I think it's very easy, at least I'll speak for myself, for me to get them like mix up. Like, was it this comic line that Luke Skywalker lost his lightsaber and went back to find it, or was that a different comic line? You know what I'm saying? Like they all of them come out all around the same time, and
that was the tricky part and they were coming out around the same time. And they were dealing with the same kind of timeline. So when we were reading those side by side, and then we kind of stopped at the main line for a bit. Yeah, it took some. Wait, where are we now? What story are we reading?
I don't want it to sound like I don't enjoy the comics because I really do.
No. Well, here's the thing, guys. We may very well be halfway through this line, and the thing about comic lines, you don't just stop halfway and say, "Not for me." Maybe after the first couple issues, you can do that. We are in bed with this story, as Holly wanted to say earlier. We are finishing the damn thing, so I think that we have quite a bit to go, and it's had such great moments. I don't think that should, these kind of, maybe, misses here should really detour us away because there are some great moments here. It's cool to learn, little bits about Exegol and these kyber crystals that were, being used to power the ships, and that's interesting stuff. Did the Palpatine, in fact, have Luke's hand?
Who
what
knows?
Did he do with it?
How did he get it?
Is Snoke part of Luke Skywalker?
Okay.
These are questions that we're going to have to pose another time.
Oh.
Unless you want to get into it now.
I don't know. In one of the Kylo Ren comics,
they're all related.
They said...
There's a little bit of Skywalker in us all.
Well, no. No. But they said...
Right, Padme?
They said that Luke and Snoke had encounters before and interactions before. And they... Like, Luke had done something to Snoke.
He did.
I don't know.
He's done this to you.
It's not related, but if it is Luke Skywalker's hand and it's in the same place where Snoke was created.
Snoke is the actual evil Luke clone.
I thought you were going to say something. I thought you were going somewhere else with that. Listen.
Snoke, a.k.a. Luke. That'll make our Legends listeners happy.
Yeah.
That would be crazy. If Luke confronted him, they had an altercation, and he's just like, dude, this clone is like part you. I don't know. It's weird.
It's like if you kill the evil clone, you're killing a part of yourself. What? Okay, we're way off track.
Kylo Ren killed him. I mean,
was Kylo really the villain?
I don't know. Was he really trying to kill his uncle there in that moment? It had nothing to do with because he sensed it. I don't know. That's some weird conversation. But hey, we talked about at the beginning. The artist knew exactly what they were doing in that moment. Like you said, Luke, they knew what kind of frenzy this would cause. And boy, it stirred up the internet pretty good. I don't think anyone had a serious like discussion about it because it was just so weird. Like, where did he get the hand? Is it Luke's hand? We assume it is. Could it be Anakin's? Where's the forearm?
But like, truly, where? Like, if it is Luke's hand,
what did you do with it?
What happened?
Yeah.
How did he get it?
Yeah.
Those little, what are they? Little Ugnaughts cleaning up down below.
Yeah.
Just like pulled it out of the compactor.
Did he inject Luke and his midichlorians into Grogu, hence Grogu's power? They have a bond now closer than I don't know.
Okay, now listen. Where do those timelines
I don't know.
exactly?
It's who knows? I don't know. It's too much to think about. That's going to have to be why did they show us this? We'll probably never, ever find out why. Ever.
They probably laughed when they did it, and they're like, no, dude, don't put that in. Wait, actually, yeah, let's put it in.
It's one of those things. It's exactly right. They've said, let's show a scene of Snoke. Oh, then we see the hand. Okay, did they do something there? We're never going to tell you.
Or they're like, it literally means nothing.
Means nothing. Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like that.
It's not even Luke's hand.
Troll your Star Wars fans.
Yeah. Holly, you said you saw a theory. Wait, no, that was Omega. Yeah, that's another conversation.
Can you imagine? That was Omega the beginning of Omega. Your Snoke theory sucks.
God. Well, we'll get back to that story, guys. Who knows? In 2 months, 3 months, whenever they release the next issue. But we're not done with that yet. But some interesting stuff there with Darth Vader. But let's move on. Let's move on to the Clone Wars, the Bad Batch.
Not the Clone Wars.
Not the Clone Wars. Episode 2, Cut and Run. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Holly, you got to see it a couple times.
Yeah, I watched it twice.
What'd you think?
Heck yeah, I watched it twice. I actually liked it a lot more the second time than I liked it the first time.
Yeah.
The second time I picked up, I know this is true. We say this all the time with every episode that we watch. Yeah. You just pick up so much more the second time around. But I very much enjoy Omega's character.
Good.
And like this episode just like made me feel really sad for her.
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt bad.
Just a kid.
I know, just a kid.
Just a kid.
And I was telling Michael, these clones, those people.
Yeah, the regs.
No, the clones, they always like talk about how they're so different from everybody else, but they're all the same. But our Bad Batch is so different from everybody else. They don't belong. They don't fit in. And I'm like, try being Omega.
Yeah.
You're a little girl who doesn't have any family, and you don't have any role models, and you don't have any friends, and you've been stuck inside this very cold, sterile world.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, that's a great point.
And it's just like
everything about Camino, at least it's just very sterile. You're absolutely right.
And it's just like she doesn't have any friends. She's never met anybody her age. She's never met people she's never been off the planet. And it's like,
Lama Su has been her caregiver, right? Lama Su, I think. That does not seem like a very exciting upbringing.
And you just have to feel bad for her because as much as like the Bad Batch wants to say they don't really fit in, like Omega really doesn't fit in. She doesn't have any friends. She doesn't have a support system. She doesn't have people she can talk to. She doesn't know how to talk to people if she could. Yeah. Well, she does a better job than you would think. Mm-hmm. It's also a fictional character on a TV show, but I feel like they did a very good job developing her character.
Yeah, I saw, people giving this episode a lot of flack, and yeah, you might be thinking, like, why the hell are we going to this planet just to have this interaction with the Zerter? Why aren't we going out and finding Rex? Well, I get it. It seemed like kind of a little detour, but ultimately it was there's the story developing with Hunter and Omega and him becoming what appears to be this father figure, and the whole point of going here was really to show like what it's going to take to be a father figure. And,
also they learned about the inhibitor chips, Because
the inhibitor chips.
Yeah, that's not information. That's information that Tech had. I think I said this last time. Luke mentioned he liked Tech's, the kind of humor that Tech brought to the show. And to me, Tech was that guy who would just like sit on information. And people were like, what, you knew this the whole time? He'd be like, duh.
Yeah, duh.
Of course
chips
I did.
are what's controlling everyone. You didn't, that was, And not to mention when Omega mentions the chips, she doesn't seem very bummed out about it. I don't think she realizes what they were being used for. She just knew this was a procedure, and she probably even assisted with doing it. And that's what they were doing. And she seemed kind of gung-ho about it. The inhibitor chips. I know those. You talk about those? Yeah.
It shows you the naivety that she has because she was being raised in this, around these people who that was what they were doing and that was the right thing to do. So to her, there wasn't anything wrong with it because she didn't have any reason to think that it was bad.
Luke, I thought this episode did a really good job. I know when we all saw the previews, we saw the trailers, everyone's speculating, Omega, like, what does it mean? Like, is she force sensitive? Like, could she be the perfect weapon? And, we all speculated like that, but this episode did a really good job of saying this is literally just a child. She's going to make the same mistakes any other kid's going to do. She's going to get herself into trouble. She has no idea what these chips are actually capable of doing. Like Holly said, she's very naive, and I think a lot of us, as we do as Star Wars fans, tend to, with all the speculation, start creating storylines in our minds, and it's really just a 5 or 6 year old kid who, doesn't know how she's created, where she comes from, has no family, like Holly said, seeing dirt for the first time. Like, it did a really good job of bringing her back home to say, you know what? Like, she can't just be one of the bad batch. She doesn't have these skills. At least she's not aware. She's going to have to grow up. Hell, she may be on some expedited growth rate. She may be 20 years old in 2 days. We don't know. So it's going to be an interesting journey, but she is just a kid. And there's so many episodes to go, and we all need to realize that. I thought this episode did a really good job of doing that. What did you think?
There's this interesting kid thread going through a lot of Star Wars over the past couple of years. This episode, I think, was going to be a sort of slowdown in the pacing compared to the big opening. I think everyone should have expected that. Not that there wasn't action in this episode, but it was more character, like, let's get to know the group as they figure out their new place in the galaxy. And but a lot of it's through the eyes of Omega experiencing the galaxy for the first time, which is really like great to see her experiencing dirt for the first time, and like plants, because she's been in the sterile environment of Camino. But there's obvious sort of blaringly obvious connections to this episode with the 4th episode of season 1 of The Mandalorian, where they get away to this sort of quieter, more agrarian, rural type planet, and you have these people who are caregivers for this young being, and they want what's best for the young child, and they think what's best is for them to live more of a familial type of life here. So very strong parallels to that story in Mandalorian. And then it was interesting to me, using the Marvel app, I've been starting to read that Bounty Hunter series I alluded to earlier that came out starting last year and kind of running currently as well. And in that story, I won't go into the details, but there is that same dynamic of ultimately it's revealed this story is about, there's this important child that is symbolic. It's not like it has great attributes necessarily like Grogu or Omega seem to have, but it's like it's a symbolically important child in that needs protected, and she ends up with a mercenary going around the galaxy protecting her and trying to figure out what to do with her. So it's funny or surprising. I don't know if it's coincidence or if it's just like a mandate around Lucasfilm to make stories like this, but it keeps popping up over and over again. This this child that needs protection, this child that's significant in some way. so I think it's interesting to see and compare those different things. But Omega, like I said, is unique enough to me, and it's not just like a copy. And it's like, oh, this is getting old, because she has a different experience and different attributes. I still don't think she's force sensitive. I know that keeps building that speculation. So I think that sets her apart from Grogu in that way. And plus, Grogu would you could tell he'd experienced some of the world, even though he's nonverbal in the traditional sense and stuff. He's not Omega, where he's like never seen anything before. So it's interesting to see that perspective too, as well. So I just thought all those sort of parallels and connections to other stories, other medium around the Star Wars universe is interesting, and I couldn't help but think of those.
Yeah, there's like in that moment where she gets off the ship and she's like playing with the dirt and she's like, what is this? There's just something so like authentic and gleeful about that. It's like if you've ever been around a child and they're experiencing something for the first time, like that just felt so true to when someone's experiencing something new for the first time, like you feel it too. And I just thought that was such like a great moment because it kind of brings you back and it's like she is still a child. There's all this really bad, really serious stuff happening. But to her, I guess, like through the eyes of a child, like she's still trying to learn and experience things for the first time. And like she should be allowed to have those experiences, even though we're like post-war, maybe still in war. Nobody really knows what's going on. It's like this transitional period that's very scary. And I don't know.
Yeah. Through the eyes of a child and also through the parent, parent of that child. So I thought it was really interesting where the kids are asking Omega to go throw the ball and she looks to Hunter for some sort of affirmation of like, is it okay? And he's just like a very gleeful moment for him. Like, oh my gosh, like this is so cool. Like, you know, we're experiencing this moment together and everyone's watching him and he's just like, what the hell is everyone watching? Like, I feel like Din had some of those moments in The Mandalorian too. So it's cool that they're both having these new experiences for the first time. And it's so, I don't know, they're obviously both enjoying it and they're starting to kind of, you know, feel for each other in a way they're not familiar with. He's usually just caring about himself and his team. And it's like, now I have this kid to take care of, you know, like we said, very similar to Din. But ultimately, what I'm loving that Star Wars is doing in Rebels too, where I think of Ezra Bridger joining this team, and you know, oftentimes just like this kid is not gonna he's not gonna be a good fit here, but he wants to be with them. And ultimately, at the end, I loved that. You know, Hunter tells Omega like, if this is where you want to be, then this is where you're gonna be.
Yeah,
thought that was super cool. We get a little bit of that with Grogu and Din. I mean, Grogu can't exactly communicate with us all the time, but you get a sense like he always tends to show back up. He wants to be here in this moment. He's sad to leave Din when he has to go, but I love that they're giving the child the opportunity to say, this is what I want, you know?
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, when we talk about things that feel like quintessentially Star Wars and you think, oh, blasters and stormtroopers and space and lightsabers, but to me it's also this like unlikely band of people who like get together and maybe they don't have anything in common except for like one small thing, but that like it works. And so we see that in the original trilogy. I mean, in the beginning you would never think that C-3PO, Han Solo, Chewie, and Leia would ever have gotten together and done anything together until the movies came around. You know, at any other time, if none of that was going on, they probably never would have crossed paths. They wouldn't have even liked each other. Yeah. And so we see that over and over again throughout Star Wars. It's kind of like bringing people together inadvertently and building those relationships. Yeah. And to me, that feels very Star Wars.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I thought a very telling moment on the farm with Cut and his family. Him and Hunter are having a conversation about the cloning and the Kaminoans and the chips, and they're talking about Omega too, and Cut says the Kaminoans never do anything like unintentionally. I thought that was really interesting, and so it almost seems like there's some story to be told about the Bad Batch themselves. I don't know if we really know what their purpose was, other than they have these heightened abilities that, you know, they work well together to do missions. Was that truly their purpose? Like, yeah, there's a lot to Omega we have to find out and all that, but what was their true purpose? Was it originally this was the idea of this Clone Force 99? And I don't think it was. And ultimately, I think I don't know if it was Lama Su, one of the Kaminoans, whoever it was that was kind of the parental figure for Omega, seemed to protect Omega in that moment, like allowing her to leave almost to protect her.
Yeah.
It felt very intentional. She was doing something with the door, holding it off. I don't know what she was doing, but letting her go to protect her for some reason. There was an intention there.
Well, the two Kaminoans at the end of the first episode have a conversation about making sure that she was able to get out of there, right?
I can't
Or that's
remember.
kind of what the conversation was alluding to.
Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting. So I feel like we might tap in deep here into the Bad Batch and kind of learn, you know, earlier stories about them. What really was their purpose? And maybe Omega has much more to do with it than we realize. And this isn't just some coincidence. I don't know. Other familiar stuff or other interesting stuff. Luke, what stuck out to you in this episode?
Well, I want to pick up a little bit on what you were saying there, because the Clone Force 99, the Bad Batch, have described themselves as defective, which implies they're accidental. Their uniqueness is accidental, and I took it that way when they were introduced as well. It'd be interesting to go back to those Clone Wars season 7 episodes and see. And it wasn't explicit, but I've always thought of, if you recall the Clone Wars episodes on Kamino, where Kamino was attacked by the Separatists, and there was this character called 99, who was a sort of deformed, malformed clone who was like kept around to be like a janitor, maintenance guy on the facility, and ends up being a hero of sorts. And I couldn't help but draw the connection between him being named 99 and when the Bad Batch is introduced, them being called Clone Force 99, to me reinforces this idea that it was an accident. Yeah. That the Bad Batch, their uniqueness was an accident rather than intentional. But then you have, like you mentioned, this character Cut saying, no, they wouldn't have done it unintentionally. They sort of have a reason for everything they're doing, and their cloning, and it suggests it's very, for the most part, precise. Yeah. So that was interesting to me to think about. That if it is more intentional, it's just kind of that probably makes more sense. Yeah. But it's sort of, I have this conflict in my head with those ideas from the Clone Wars, content.
Can I add to that? Yeah. Because I think I had stuff to say about that too, because so the way that, this is just me, the way that I'm interpreting all of those conversations and things from the Clone Wars is that perhaps the Bad Batch did end up being defective, but Omega being one of the remaining 5, similar to the Bad Batch, was intentional. Yeah. And they saw things happening in the Bad Batch, and they said, you know what? We're going to take this and we're going to roll with it. And we are going to create another clone like the Bad Batch. And each of the Bad Batch members has a heightened skill or ability or whatever. So to me, Omega has one. We just don't know what it is yet. And it might be something to do with, she was a medical assistant and only 12 years old. What 12-year-old is a medical assistant? But so I don't know if she has some sort of ability that lies in that realm, or if her caretaker was really just trying to shelter her from, at this point now, I guess like the Republic, and not let them know that she had something that they would be able to weaponize her with, which is why they wanted her to get off of Kamino. But I think that she has a heightened ability, and all throughout this episode, she was put in situations where I thought something was going to come out and nothing did. Yeah. So I think at some point during this season, she's going to develop a skill set that's probably going to come out of nowhere and surprise everybody, and then she's going to be able to work on it. I just don't know what it would be.
I'm starting to think that she's a little bit of all of them.
Maybe.
There's moments in both episodes where, I don't know if you notice this one, Tech is doing something, and the camera then zooms, it focuses back to her, and you see her kind of in the background watching him intently, and it pauses for a second, her watching what he's doing. She's very observant in everything. You know, she's always watching Hunter, how he's leading, you know, his team, following his mannerisms, sometimes telling them to hush and kind of do it. Yeah, some of that's the connection that they have, but then I see her observing what Tech's doing, and I don't know. It could just be someone that's just extremely adaptable. I have no idea, but there's something that's going to bring all these guys together, and it's you know, maybe she is a little piece of all of them.
So when you say all of these guys together, do you mean Crosshair, or is he dead to you?
You guys won me over. I'm sure he's going to come back at some point, but I do love that there had to be an asshole in the group, and sometimes that's Leonardo in the Turtles. But we had Crosshair here, who, you know, we didn't see him at all, which was, you know, kind of interesting. So he's gonna catch up. You know, I guess that family's off the world now. So I thought maybe he'd come and torture him. Something that would have been really intense.
That would have been really awful.
Can I tell you something? This is kind of dark, but I kind of thought would have been interesting.
No.
If Cut's chip had actually worked. I know the whole spiel was to eliminate Jedi, but like, wouldn't that have been interesting if they came and one of their friends kind of like, man, he had it so good, like he made the right choices, and ultimately like he still couldn't escape it. That would have been dark, but it would have been interesting.
That's a debate going around about like, how was Cut affected by Order 66? And I assume he wasn't, because he never heard the order. Like, it seemed like the clones needed to hear the order. And I thought it was interesting how in the premiere episode, Tech says like this thing is all over the comm channels over and over again. It just says execute Order 66, execute Order 66. So it needs that trigger, you know. So I think Cut, he's got his chip and it probably works fine, but he's off the grid, you know, so he's not connected to that stuff. So I think there's a lot of people on the internet like, wow, why didn't Cut go insane when Order 66 happened? It's like, that's not what Order 66 is. It's not that they just go out of control, like, must have flesh. He starts trying to eat his own kids or anything, you know. He's out of the loop, so there's nothing triggering that chip.
Yeah. Poor Cut, you know. Felt like he had it all, and, you know, has this family now to take care of, and then now, within days of Order 66, maybe a couple weeks, they don't really specify how long it's been, but he does mention, you know, just in the past couple of weeks, they had been starting to impound ships and stuff. So this empire, I'm glad we kind of saw this. We're going to see more of it, but just how quickly it becomes, you know, this is how we're going to instill order. Y'all are no longer individuals. You're a number, and we're going to start taking inventory of you. We're going to start controlling when and how you come in and out of these planets. I thought that was really interesting. I know there's a connection with the chain codes in Mandalorian. I didn't cool. Like, I know some people were just like, oh, it's so cool it connects. I really that wasn't that exciting to me. But you know, it was interesting to see. We continue to see these clones who we loved and they had so much individuality, and now we never see them take their helmets off. The ones that we did see in the mess hall in the first episode, they all had the same kind of haircuts. Like, it was just, we're really starting to see them as the villains now. There was, though, a moment, as much as you think this inhibitor chip is kind of controlling them, there was a moment when Cut was getting on the ship to leave, the clone stopped him and said, "You look like," and then got interrupted by one of his buddies to go fight Wrecker when Wrecker was causing a ruckus. And you're just like, wait a second, like, so he's recognizing himself here, and it's not, you know, they're not completely gone. Like Luke said, they're not zombies out there just mindlessly wandering or just like completely, abiding by, whatever, so they're not machines. There's still some individuality there, but I thought that was kind of interesting. I wasn't sure. What would he have done if he had noticed him? Hey, brother, or like, no, why do you look like me?
He was a deserter, and so he was worried that he was going to get caught. But I wonder if at some point there was any other order that they were given where it was like, we know that some clones defected.
Yeah.
Find them and kill them like you did to the Jedi.
It could be. Yeah.
I don't know. Could be a stretch. Could be a waste of resources. They don't care that much. But they cared enough to go after the Jedi, like, high and freaking low.
Absolutely. They were a big threat to Palpatine's rule. Another thing that was interesting, Cut mentioned, just the day before the Bad Batch landed, Rex was there. That's a small little detail, Cut. Didn't bother to ask him where the hell he was going. Didn't want to know. So it seems like it ain't going to be in the next episode we're going to find Rex. We know maybe they're close behind, but they have no idea where he's going. So maybe that'll be later in the season, I presume. But I thought that was an interesting little nugget. I thought it would have been cool to see Rex come back and hang out with Cut and see how things were going and talk to him about that. But
well, that's a good connection to the first appearance of Cut in season 2 of Clone Wars. We talked about this last episode when we were speculating where are they going, and this was one of the main speculations that they would go to this character who was a deserter from the clone army, and you see in Rex gets injured on Seleucami in Clone Wars season 2 and ends up finding this farm where Cut and Sue live with their kids, and they help sort of rehabilitate him, and Rex is reckoning with this idea of this guy who's a deserter and who now has loyalty to his family and protecting them rather than loyalty to the Republic like Rex has, and you see Rex reckon with that through that Clone Wars episode. I went back and watched it, and one big difference is that Sue is much more scantily clad in the Clone Wars.
Really?
The the Twi'lek species is like the most sexualized species in all of Star Wars. In Return of the Jedi, the dancer in Jabba's palace is pretty much naked. And Sue in the Clone Wars looks like an exotic dancer as well, who doesn't need to take off much to finish her act. So it was interesting that they, for this series, put a bit more clothes on her. Yeah.
Well, what year was the second season even released?
Oh, that'd be like 2010-ish.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot that has changed just in like what is perceived as appropriate and not appropriate for a children's show.
Well, I love, Holly, this is kind of similar to that idea, because you were saying when Sue was shooting at that animal, whatever that thing was.
Yes.
You were like, if this were Rebels or Clone Wars, they would have shot the thing dead.
Yeah.
And they didn't.
They didn't. They just scared it off. I mean, they hit it, but it didn't kill it. Whereas in Clone Wars and Rebels, they were killing these creatures that would come up on them left and right. But I will say in this episode, they did not have any hesitancy for anybody in the Bad Batch to be dropping the soldiers that were coming at them.
Shooting the clones? Yeah. We tried setting one to stun. Not enough.
Didn't work.
Which, I mean...
which they stunned them earlier on Camino, right? For the most part. And I wonder if they'll reckon with that more. I was surprised there were no, like, lines or scenes where they were reckoning with, like, their regs being adversaries now. But maybe they just always felt so apart from them that it's not as emotional as, like, it was for Rex having to deal with that.
Yeah.
It's actually interesting that we're talking about this, because I don't think people talk about the creatures, being just kind of mindlessly killed, or characters like Sue, being all could have used some more clothes in Clone Wars. I don't think that's things that people are talking about. I think sometimes we get so distracted with the cool fight scenes and stuff that people aren't realizing just like how sexualize like Star Wars has made characters over the years, even in cartoons.
Yeah.
Like there's even scenes of Ahsoka. It's like Ahsoka wouldn't be wearing a tube top. Come on, like this is stupid. Everyone else is wearing armor and she's in a tube top. This is stupid.
Yeah.
Like I just feel like we don't talk about that stuff enough, and maybe it seems like Star Wars trying to rectify this issue a little bit and maybe do better. I hope.
Hopefully, because in all honesty, their portrayal of women still needs some help.
It's not great.
No, it's not
great.
And when you're thinking about these are still kids shows, like the target, I think that people, even other Star Wars podcasters and content creators, forget the target audience is not you 30-year-old men
7 and up
who want to talk about this. The target audience is children. The message that these cartoons are sending to children. This isn't something on like Cartoon Network or whatever they would do like later in the evening. Like this is a kid show, and it needs to be sending the right message to children, which generally should be about respect, and respect that you give other people, and respect that you give other living creatures around you, which includes animals.
Well, and that a lot of it stems from many creators in the cartoon world and the comic world are men, and it's the depiction of the female heroine or female characters of any sort are very sexualized,
very much
big busts, and that's something that has defined superheroes to this day
and comic books
for
and
decades,
fantasy in general. And
that's unfortunate. That's why we need more female creators, because if I were to ask my nephew to draw a female, He's 7 years old. If I said draw me a female superhero, he's not going to draw some character with big boobs and a V-neck down to her belly. But he's not going to do that.
Or he might, because that's all he sees.
I mean, maybe, but it's like these characters are being created by men to fulfill a fantasy and
other men.
Exactly, we need to do better. So more female creators are going to absolutely help with that, and so I think Star Wars could do better in that regard.
They need to be. The thing is, like female creators are out there, they're just not getting hired. And so I think that there needs to be more of a push to increase the employment of people who are going to bring diversity to these creations.
And there's a lot of great content out there that you can watch that just shows you the difference between male creations and female creations when we're talking about characters and superheroes. Really fascinating stuff. A lot of research has been done on this, and we can just do better. But I think it's something that doesn't get talked about in Star Wars because it gets so distracted with other stuff like the Force and laser swords, and it's so cool. And people say, "Man, you just ruin a good time."
Don't be such a wet blanket.
Some of this stuff is ruining it for our younger generation. So,
or for me,
or for women in general. But you have a better idea of it. I'm talking about very impressionable minds that don't. So. Yeah, I think Star Wars can do better, and maybe we're doing better in the Clone Wars.
But it is really interesting to see how those characters and the outfits and the way that they act is evolving over time. Yeah. As I feel like there are more people paying attention to these shows, there's more pressure on these creators to be doing things differently, and generally it's more accessible now with Disney Plus, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, it was a good episode. Feel good episode. You know what else I love? We have no freaking clue where we're going next. It's awesome. It's like the Mandalorian. Let's hope we're not going to Tatooine. Kind of feels like it, right? I could kind of feel it.
I don't know if you guys caught it, but on the Star Wars YouTube, they release kind of little trailer type things for the next episode a day or two after the last episode airs, and it looks like we might be getting into the Fennec Shan crossover. It looks like she might be coming into things in the next episode.
I'm here for that.
Or a couple episodes, and they're going to get back to more of like looks like a big city situation, and it doesn't look like we're getting Rex right away, but obviously we're going to get Rex at some point. That's been strongly hinted at. But it looks like they're going to be just kind of getting down into the seedy parts of the galaxy and going to cross blasters maybe with Fennec Shand here coming up.
When you mentioned Fennec Shand, then I was starting to think Tatooine. I was like, oh, shoot, here we go. We're going back, which who knows, we might. But as much as I was thinking, we're 2 episodes in, I thought the Bad Batch may need to take a break from each other and go out and just kind of see the world, separate. Doesn't seem like we're going to get that. It seems like they're going to need to rely on each other just to literally survive.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be hunted.
Hunter becomes the hunted.
Ooh, I love it. That might be a title of an episode, Holly.
You have to hold on to that one for
Hunter
later.
becomes Dada.
No.
The hunted. No. So yeah, I have no idea where we're going with this. And that's great. I think that's great. I'm so over leaks. I'm so over that crap. I'm over. Stop posting leak set scenes from the Andor series. I'm just over that shit. I want to be surprised.
Now you're sounding like me.
I'm down for a trailer, but man, people love to spoil shit. And I'm just so over it.
Doesn't want it anymore.
I just don't, because you're ruining it for me. I didn't need to know that the Shore Troopers were going to be in the Andor series. Leave that a surprise.
Wow, now you've spoiled it for everybody.
Damn it, I did. Now you could, if you're on Twitter, if you're on social media.
No, I didn't see that.
Well, Holly, I'm really sorry.
God damn it.
If I saw it, you saw it. My eyes are your eyes.
Whoa.
But yeah, it was fun. Anything else about the episode, guys? It was just a feel-good episode. Hunter's gonna become a real softie here, so it's gonna be interesting. I thought it was kind of risky to continue another father figure story. Got a lot of that in The Mandalorian, a lot of it in The Mandalorian. So what?
Real quick,
Yeah.
I think it does serve nicely as a sort of a preview for Andor, which I think is one of the next live actions that we're going to get released, which is going to play in the sort of similar time era. It was interesting to me to see, like, what does the galaxy look like as they're making this transition from Republic to Empire, and to start to see that take place on the ground level. So to me, it might end up having some good tie-in with Andor in a way, and be a nice lead-in into that. I don't know how intentional that was, but it seems like it might work out well.
Absolutely. Probably going to be a lot of chain code references in Andor now that we know that that's his thing. And Holly, you also said how cool would it be to see Omega in live action. Who knows? Maybe Andor and Omega, best friends. Who knows?
Maybe.
Maybe she recruits him.
I just think that she would be kind of a cool character to see live action later down the road.
Do you think you could voice her?
No.
Well, actually, it's live action.
I was going to suggest you go out for the
Yeah.
part,
I think I
Michael,
could.
with your inhibited
chips. She's got a great accent. It's awesome. Sometimes I can't even understand what she's saying. It's great.
Like every time she says tech, she says tick.
Tick. She also said something I can't remember.
Makes me want to watch Flight of the Conchords.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that show so much. Oh, I love their performances. I love their show.
He's dead. Yeah, but what did he do? He did what? He's dead.
Oh, business socks. That's all. I'll always remember business socks. Business time. Business socks. Flight of the Conchords was great. They could have made 20 seasons of that show, and I would have watched every single one.
Yeah.
Got me through a lot of college, Holly. But who knows? You may see Luke and I doing a Flight of the Conchords impersonation. Luke on banjo, me on guitar. You never know, Holly.
You never know.
A bluegrass version of Flight of the Conchords.
Anything is
minus
possible.
the accents. I don't know. We could bring some accents in there. But Luke has a nice Southern accent.
Southern accent?
Maybe.
I don't know.
We'll find out.
Can you picture Luke in like a straw hat with like
Absolutely.
some overalls on?
Absolutely, yes.
Carrying his banjo.
Yes. Absolutely.
I was born in Texas.
See?
That's true.
There it is. There it is. I absolutely forgot about that. So you're right. He's already a
I haven't
Southerner.
been there in a long time.
Wow. You can take the boy out of the South, but you can't take the South out of the boy.
Is that what they say?
I don't know.
You could take the boy out of the South, but he won't go back for a really long time.
Yeah. Yep.
That's Luke.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah. Who knows, guys? You may have yourself the new Flight of the Conchords, but we'll think of a cool name. Don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's going to take me a bit. But yeah, guys, Bad Batch, not disappointing. A nice, fun show. Maybe Star Wars is doing better with our female characters and less slaying of animals, hopefully. Nice changes there. But, and hey, a decent Darth Vader, issue. We'll see what happens with that story as well. But, hey, it's new Star Wars material, and we're always going to be here for it. That's what we love to discuss here. We'll speculate with the best of them, but we're not talking about leaks. We're actually talking about Star Wars material that's coming out, Star Wars content. So we love it. We're going to continue to consume it, and I hope you guys are here along for the ride. So if you like what you heard, guys, subscribe to the podcast. Like us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Whatever you can do to support the podcast. Give us a review on Apple. Whatever you can do to support the podcast, we appreciate that. You can check us out on Patreon, see if there's a tier right for you. Check us out on all social media. Join our Facebook group. We're doing a lot of fun things in there, a lot of fun conversation. But, if none of that, just continue to enjoy the podcast and enjoy Star Wars along with us. So we appreciate you guys. Enjoy the Bad Batch and the coming episodes, and stay tuned for the next installment of Flying Casual. So take care of one another, and may the Force be with you.